I wonder if I can still find. Hold on. I wonder if I can still find that video of me doing ragtime. It's not a great video. It's like shot on a GoPro that my friend did because like we couldn't film the show. But I'm happy to have it. The only issue is I was sick. Wait. Oh no. I thought he had sent me a message on Facebook with it. I guess it's gone now. I can always message him and be like, yo, do you still have this? Anyway, what's up, squad? What's up, YouTube? What's up, TikTok? Sorry, we're talking about musicals on Twitch, so they got me. They know that that's my when they get me going on musical theater, the wheels start going. Let's open up a restaurant in Santa Fe. Sunny Santa Fe would be nice. I could have sworn that I had that. Huh. I guess I don't. I'll ask him where it is. Anyway, we can get these debates cooking. If you disagree, the call-in line is open. And oh, well, there's somebody in the TikTok guest request already. Okay. I can go to the TikTok guest request. Does the person in the TikTok guest request disagree? If you don't disagree, then there's nothing to talk about right now. Our labor would reap financial gain. Let's open up a restaurant in Santa Fe and save from devastation our brains. Yes, I know who Nick Fuentes is. Yes, I've seen the rumors. No, I will not watch the video to confirm any of these rumors. But if it is true, damn. If it's true, squad, whoo. Hello, you here to debate?
Possibly. Just depends on your answer to a couple clarifying questions.
All right. Can I first get your name, age, and pronouns, please?
Sure. I'm Brad at 28 and he, him.
Hey, Brad, what are your questions?
Sure. So I have one question about communism versus capitalism. And then I have another question about something you said in the previous Monday morning stream about gay versus homosexual. Do you have a preference for which one we go to first?
Doesn't matter. You can do whichever one you want.
Sure. So I just wanted to bring up, I guess, the gay versus homosexual one first. So just to make sure I am actually, I'll just ask you, how do you differentiate between those two things?
Yeah, I would just say gay, in my opinion. Now, this is just the way I feel based on like how society sort of moved from strictly sexual phenotypic attraction. I think that gay would be related to like somebody's outward expression. Like if you're attracted to, like for instance, if I'm mask and attracted to masks, right? I feel like that would be telling of somebody who's gay. But if I'm only attracted to, if I have a genital preference and I'm attracted to male genitalia, I think this I can say would be more homosexual. For instance, if I dated somebody who like, if I was in a relationship with somebody who looked exactly like me but has a vagina, I wouldn't consider this a gay relationship. Or I mean, I would consider this a gay relationship. Sorry. I would consider that a gay relationship. I don't think there's any way to say that relationship is a straight relationship.
Okay, so are you familiar with the terms androphilic versus gynophilic?
Yeah.
Okay. Any reason for not just using that as a blanket to kind of merge both of them together?
I don't see a reason not to. It's just I feel like it's just easier to say gay. You know what I mean? It's just a short word.
Well, like I'll typically just say gay for everything. For clarification, I'm gay. So just for me, that covers either or. I was just wondering about that. It's not a hard sticking point. I was just curious.
I don't have a, I don't, I mean, I don't mind using those words, you know, I have no issue with it. It's just, I haven't.
Yeah, the general push is to do that because they also push more towards a spectrum of attraction rather than it just being attracted to these phenotypical sexual characteristics or these gender characteristics. It's a bit more envy inclusive also.
Yeah, I mean, hold on, let me pull it here. Androphilic is an adjective that means having a preference for males or masculinity, regardless of one's own gender identity or sex. For example, both gay men and heterosexual women can be described as androphilic. The term androphilia refers to sexual attraction and arousal towards males, while gynephilia refers to sexual attraction and arousal towards females. But then again, my question just becomes like, when we're talking about people say, I feel like most people, when they're attracted to someone, we're not really looking at like a person's sexual characteristics. We're more looking at the gender expression that they're putting out into the world. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think I'd separate that a bit because I can be romantically attracted to somebody, but not sexually attracted to them, and vice versa.
Sure. What do you call? So then the question just becomes like, what do you call being romantically? What would you call that, being romantically attracted to somebody who does not have the genitals you prefer?
So in my case, it would still be androphilic because I'm typically only attracted to men. So if for example, there's a trans man where they are masculine presenting, but they don't have a penis, then I would still consider that androphilic because it's not, how do I put this? It's not tied to just their gender identity or just their phenotypical sexual characteristics. It can be either or both.
I have no issue with these terms on their head. Like, I've got no issues with it.
Okay, gotcha. All right. That pretty much covers things for me. I just didn't know if that was a hardline stance for you or if it was just a use for convenience kind of thing. Did you want to move on to communism capitalism question?
You can go wherever you want.
Sure. So the communism capitalism one is, so to be clear, I'm somewhere between democratic socialist and a socialist. My reason for moving back from communism is twofold. First, I think the end goal is post-scarcity with people having adequate access to necessary resources. And to me, it doesn't matter if it's a capitalist, socialist, or communist system as long as they have the access to those resources. So I think that the main thing that I see unaddressed by communism is protection from hostile foreign entities. Because if there isn't a centralized power that can organize a defense force or a military, whatever you want to call it, then I think it can be difficult for other groups that try to accumulate power or to repel other groups that try to accumulate power.
I think it would be impossible for those groups to accumulate power under like a true communist system, though. I think like it wouldn't be like, the only way to accrue that power would be to offer somebody something that they don't have so that they will then work for you. But like, what can you offer them when everybody's needs are met? Like, what can you physically offer those people?
Sure. So what I'm going off of isn't so much what you can offer people, but it's more along the lines of within any given population, there is a given percentage of people that will just act out violently for no reason, just as an example. And within that, there's also a certain percentage of people that will attempt to accumulate and consolidate power as well. So my question is how
but again, my question is how do they
Okay.
consolidate power? The only way to consolidate power is by offering somebody something that they want in order to maintain that power.
Oh, sure.
So if there's nothing they can offer them, how do they do that?
Sure, through influence. So let me give you an example. Let's say you are in South America or something, and there's a drought, and you're a farmer, and you find a technique that makes it so even in spite of the drought, you can still provide for the community, and then you have increased influence in that community. So people are more likely to follow you. So even though you aren't giving people any more, right, you're effectively returning them to the normal by overcoming the drought.
But the problem is this now paints this area in a vacuum. Yes, this area might experience a drought. Why wouldn't the rest of us help them? so that the drought doesn't affect them. We would just give them the water they need while they're experiencing that drought, thus stopping the ability to consolidate power.
Okay, I think I found the problem. We might be talking. Are you talking a global communist system, or are you talking
Communism
within
can only exist globally.
isolated communes?
Communism can only exist globally. Well, let
I
me
disagree
rephrase
with
that.
that.
Let me rephrase that. I don't know if it can only exist globally, but you need it to exist globally, because otherwise capitalists, if there are capitalist groups, they will try to take by force the communist groups. They will promise
Right,
people
that's where the
power
question about
and
protection from
resources they
hostile
don't
foreign
have.
entities comes from.
Sure, but I don't mind us having like a vanguard, right? I don't mind us having like groups that protect from that. It would just be up to the community about how they want to handle those things.
Sure. So the question then is, because, for example, I'm very anti-conscription. I think it's effectively military slavery, and I think if people want to have the ability to choose to die in a conflict, they should be able to, or sorry, not die in a conflict and die to the invader. They should have that right. So how would you effectively generate sufficient manpower for that vanguard without conscription, or do you think conscription isn't an issue?
I think plenty of people would be willing to fight to maintain their liberation. I think people would just be willing to do it.
Okay. Gotcha. Understood. Sorry, I'm just taking a note real quick.
You're good.
All right. So back to the other part of the question is, would you, for example, be okay with a capitalist system that is post-scarcity and that people aren't gate-kept from having their necessary goods and services?
Say that one more time.
Sure. Would you be okay with a post-scarcity capitalist society where there is still profit incentive, but people are not gate-kept from having their essential goods and services?
No, because the nature of private property, I believe to be unethical. So by nature, capitalism just existing in and of itself would be unethical in my view.
I see. So I'm going to make a quick distinction. I'm not sure if this will affect your view at all. I differentiate between profit incentive and profit motive, where profit incentive is what we view as the quote-unquote good part of capitalism, or capitalists view as a good part, where they see people provide higher quality goods and services, and they're compensated extra for that. Whereas profit motive is you have an existing consumer base, you squeeze them for everything you can, and you cut costs and treat your workers like shit to squeeze as many dollars out of the community as possible. Right. So I think that if we can have profit incentive while also mitigating profit motive.
I don't think this is possible under capitalism. I actually don't think, or let me rephrase that. I don't think that solves my ethical issue with capitalism, because you still have to, in order to engage in the system, you still have to privatize ownership.
Sure. So when you have the issue with privatizing ownership, is it with the concept of ownership itself, or is it because of the fact that people's labor and whatnot are being exploited for the sake of that private ownership?
Both. I think it's unethical to own resources that are necessary for people to live. I think it's unethical to own land. I think it's unethical to own these things and sell them back to people, right? Like, I think it's unethical that, like, we have to buy water, right? Like, I think these things are all just, like, would just, in my opinion, be
well,
the unethical stuff.
Keep in mind, like, I'm saying this where, like, people aren't deprived of their access to their basic necessities. So, for example, let's say that I have water that I accumulate that's just given to me. However, I have a way of filtering it and flavoring it where this water now becomes sort of a luxury good of sorts. Nobody's being deprived of their necessities, and the water that I'm using is just what I gain through my resources, right? I ration out what I get to make sure I have enough for me, and I can also give some back to the community at the same time, or sell it, or whatever, depending on the system. Would you say that's unethical?
I'd say it's I'd still say that if you're owning in the means of production, that would still be unethical. And then we get into the fact that you're, in order to sell that water and make any sort of profit, right, which you would have to make, right? Otherwise, what's the point of selling the water? Just give it to people. So if you're selling you're selling it for a profit. That profit incentive means that you have to not pay people the actual value of their labor, because you have to make a profit.
So I think I think we missed two key things with this. One is that it's just me doing the labor. There's nobody else doing the labor. It's not trying to be scaled. And then the second thing is, what's that?
I didn't say anything.
Oh, sorry, I thought you did. And then the second thing is, this water that I'm using to sell to people is out of the water that was given to me as part of what was allocated to me. So I'm not depriving other people of their resources. This is just what was already allocated to me for use.
Yeah, sure, but I don't think this would be possible, because what do you do when more people want the water that you're giving out? What do you do?
I would say, sorry, I can't supply more. First come, first serve.
Sure, I don't know that I'd necessarily call this capitalism then. You haven't privatized anything. What have you privatized?
Sure. Well, I'm not talking about how do I put this? So under a communist system, there isn't really any way to have a business, right? So this is
right, but I wouldn't call this a business because you're not making profit. So I wouldn't call this a business.
Oh well, sure. I'm definitely making a profit.
Are you making a profit? Oh, okay, sure. Here's what I would say. Under communism, if you want to take water and you want to flavor that water and then give it to people and say, hey, here's this water, but give me X in return, right? This isn't the issue, right? There's no issue here if you're doing it all, right? But if the people go, if the community goes, hey, we really like this water and we'd like to scale this up because more people want it, and you go, well, I'm not giving you my recipe, this would not become an issue.
Okay.
Because you've gone from not caring about the needs. You've gone from not caring about the needs of the community to caring only about like, oh well, I just want the water for me. I'm the only person that should be able to. You've now become a private owner.
I think I disagree, just in the sense that so just to be clear, to make sure that I'm not mischaracterizing, you're saying that if I just make that water for me specifically, and I don't share that recipe or filtration method or whatever is with the community.
No, if you're just making it for you, if you're just making it for you, you're fine. Right? We can't take it if you're just but if you're distributing it to the people in the community in exchange for X, whatever X may be, like if you're trading it
bartering,
if you're bartering it with Joe the Pelter because he has some rugs you want, and people go, oh, well, you're now engaging in good. This is now a good, right? It's no longer just like your own personal property. It's now a good. And the community would like access to this good, and you say no, you've privatized this.
Okay, and what if the answer is I don't know how to make it? So it's not no, it's just I accidentally created this filter and I can only produce so much water per day. Now, if that water that is filtered through my method is then reallocated to the community based on whatever ration.
Wait. If you go to the community, hey guys, I don't know how to reproduce this, right? What we're gonna say is, okay, let's work together as a community to like figure it out, and then we'll like, as long as you're not, if you're the means of production is going to be land, labor, capital, and technology. Technology is where I would put the water filtration system, right? So you can, if you don't know how to recreate it, nobody's gonna nobody can fault you. But if you do know how to recreate it and you refuse to share that with the community, that's where the issue comes in. Because the only reason you're refusing to share that with the community is because you get a personal benefit out of it, right? You get some sort of incentive via trade and barter, and you're not willing to do what's better for the whole. You're only focused on what's good for the you, which again would come into the issue that I have with like the ethicalness of it.
Okay, so let's take that a step further, and let's say that I'm not gatekeeping the technology from the community, but it just turns out through the magic of this hypothetical that I'm the only person that's capable of reproducing it. Can I then be compelled to produce that more for the community?
Compelled in what way? I think the hypothetical is a little flawed if we're trying to determine how we would handle real world situations inside of the system, because obviously there is not any product that only one person can do except for maybe like art. And like, we just can't force somebody to make more and more art for a community, right? We would say like, if they're making art for the community, they can only do what they can. That's the whole point of communism. It's from each according to their ability. So if you only have the ability to make so much, we can't make you make more than you have the ability to make.
Okay. Yeah. Effectively, what I was trying to do through this is control for the different things that we consider the means of production. So just to go through, just from the start, just to make sure we're on the same page. So I have a filtration method. I then barter with the water I create through that filtration method. And he says, hey, we would like access to that knowledge. I then share it, and it just so happens that for the time being, maybe years down the road when people practice enough, they can do it. But for the time being, I'm the only person that's able to reproduce that filtration method. So then at that point, just to make sure I understand, you're saying you can't compel me to create more water than I'm willing to, or how would you go about how much water I'm supposed to produce, or is that up to me?
How much water you're able to produce, we would ask you. We're not going to make you do more than you can, right? We're going to operate under good faith that you're not going to lie to the community, right? So we're going to just ask you what you can produce. And if you say, well, I can only produce X amount, right? We're going to go, okay, while we work on trying to like replicate this production that you've done. And then if you're like, well, I can only produce X amount because I only have X amount, we're going to give you more if you need more, right? Like if it's for the good of the community, we're going to work together to make sure we can produce as much as we can without making you overproduce, you overuse your own labor.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, so I understand that. I think we're good.
Okay.
Just trying to think if there's anything else, but there isn't really much to disagree with you on. Thank you. Appreciate the conversation, Jovan.
Yeah, no problem.
Take care.
You too. All right, let's move on to a TikTok guest request. And then we'll go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
Hey, what's up?
What's up? You here to debate?
Yes.
All right, can I just get your name, age, and pronouns, please? Also, you have a lot of background noise.
Oh,
Can't
sorry.
Can't really hear you much.
Can you hear me now? Ever?
Ever.
25. And then what I'm here to talk about is...
Wait, what are your pronouns?
He, him.
Okay, cool.
And then communism versus capitalism. I just don't understand how that would work in practice. Specifically when you talk about natural resources. Like the gentleman you were talking with earlier brought up water. And so we all know like water is abundant, but you just can't go and dip a plastic bottle. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you were breaking up for a second. Are you like on speaker? There's so much. There's like a bunch of wind.
Oh yeah, I'm on speaker. Sorry, hold on. Let's see. What about now? Is that a little better or no?
Not really. You don't have any headphones or anything?
No, I don't. I'll be quick. Okay. But what I'm saying is like it's hard to have a community regulated enterprise for natural resources. That's my point. I don't see how that would work when one, it requires everyone. Yeah, like it would require everyone in the community to put an equal share into this effort, whether it's power, whether it's water, whether it's housing. You would have to provide equal stake in the game for these enterprises to work. And so everyone isn't skilled labor. Like if you're part of community A and you have 100 people in community A and you all want clean water, 2 people can't be in charge of the clean water. That's not fair. Sure, and so no, they couldn't, because they would have to be. So the reason why they couldn't is because they would have to essentially be forced labor in order for the community to have clean water.
Where's the force?
Because if no one else can do it in the community, how do you have an equal ownership of the water system?
What do you mean? That's not what equal ownership means. Equal ownership. Hold on. Equal ownership doesn't mean who's in charge of it. It's about who owns it, right? I can own a grocery store, but have someone else manage it. I never have to lift a finger at that grocery store, but I still own it, right? We can all collectively own the resources and have people manage them. Like I'm specifically at council communism. That's what council communism is. There would be worker councils that run these specific things that are voted on by the community.
So this is what I'm saying. So you will have enterprises. Let's just call them enterprises, where you will only have a select group of people, individuals of that community, who will be knowledgeable about said resource.
So we train the other people.
So that would mean that an individual under the capitalist society who's, say, a comedian who makes their money by telling jokes would have to go and work at a distillery because they are not valuable to their community by providing.
They would still be valuable. Jokes. What are you talking about? They provide entertainment. Entertainment is a commodity. Entertainment is a needed commodity.
It's not because when you break it down to like,
bro, you're just making things you're making up things to get to like fault it with.
I feel like it's equivalent to when they told the truckers to learn the code. Like, I feel like it's equivalent to that, because essentially under capitalism, you can make money any kind of way. You can make money on TikTok and sustain your life by doing what you want to do.
You wouldn't need to make money to sustain your life under communism. You're given what you need.
You would have to provide some sort of valuable
just like you do
resource to your community.
Just like you do now. The valuable resource now is your labor.
Under
it's the exact
capitalism, same. No, I'm saying under capitalism, the resource you can provide to your community is much more diverse, because you can own a business.
It's not.
Yeah, it is. How is it not?
Because under capitalism, the resources only matter if it's making money for somebody else. Not everybody. No. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I was gonna say, do you think that all of the items, goods, and services and enterprises that operate under capitalism would thrive in a communist society? Do you believe that?
No, not everything would.
Okay, so
there's some stuff we just don't. There's some stuff we just don't need. So those people can do other jobs. They can do other things. What you're trying to say, what you're saying boils down to, comedians can only be comedians. They have no outward skill to do anything else.
I didn't say that. What I'm saying is that I'm saying that under capitalism, comedians only have to be comedians. They don't have to be a steel worker.
Wait, that's the problem. That's the problem. You shouldn't be locked into one thing your entire life, because that's the thing that you're able to make money off of in a capitalist
system. But that's some people's passions. So why are you willing to take that away?
Who's saying their passion would leave? Nobody's saying, right? Comedian might not be a job anymore. It might not be something that they do for to live, but they would still be able to be a comedian. And it would actually be easier for them to be a comedian, because they wouldn't have to wonder where the fuck their housing is coming from if they can't get gigs that month.
See, I think you understand what I'm saying, but you're missing the point.
No, I'm not. You just don't understand the structure under
what you're
communism.
Saying is that you're saying that comedians just need to take on a second job, and I'm saying that under the current system we have, they would only have one job, because being a comedian would not be their job. They wouldn't have to do that as a job. They wouldn't have to hope and pray that they sell out a show in order to pay rent that week. Here's what I'm going to say. I guarantee you, if I went to every comedian and I said, "Hey, yo, if you work 2 days, like 4 or 5 hour days farming, you can spend the rest of the week doing whatever you want. This includes comedy. We'll even fucking set up the comedy club for you. You can do whatever you want." They're going to all say yes. No, I don't think so.
I think they will. Most comedians aren't just, see, the thing is, what we need to stop doing is pretending that like every person that's a comedian is only a comedian. Not everybody's Kevin Hart. Most people who do stand up have other employment. It's typically like waitressing or being a waiter or baristas. It's the vast minority of people who only work as comedians. That's the minority.
I'm using comedian as an example.
Yeah, this could be for any.
I'm saying that under a capitalist society, there are an unmeasurable amount of ways to make money. Is what I'm saying.
There's not.
And yes, there is.
No, there isn't.
You can sell your toenails online if you want to for a living.
That's just sales. That's not a new way of making money. That's just selling something. Selling something is
so what I'm saying is under capitalism, right? You get that opportunity. You don't get that opportunity
Yes,
under
under
communism.
capitalism, you get the opportunity to have to figure out what to do in order to live. You get the opportunity to sell your labor in order to hope you have enough money to pay for groceries that week. That's what you get.
So let's say you're a content creator. Under capitalism, let's say you're a content creator full-time, that's your passion, that's what you want to do. Under capitalism, under communism, how do you manage that person's life?
What are you talking about?
What do you say to that person who just wants to do content creation under communism?
So do it.
So how does that person
Are you providing
value?
a service to the community? If the community likes it's the same in capitalism. If people like what you're doing, we're going to continue to fund you doing it. But if I'm a content creator in capitalism and nobody likes my content, how do I make money? I don't. Just like if I'm in communism and I'm a content creator and nobody likes if I'm a content creator in a communist system and everybody loves my content, I'm going to keep doing it because they're going to keep.
See, that's the problem.
This is exactly how it works in capitalism.
No,
that's exactly how it is. Yes, it is. If I'm a content creator who makes content that nobody likes, can I do content creation solely under capitalism? Yes or no?
So for your analogy to work,
Bro,
the government. For your analogy to work in capitalism, the government or powers that be would have to pay you as a salary. And that's not the case.
No, you are not tracking. This is embarrassing.
Your organized community under capitalism does not pay you to content.
This is
create.
embarrassing.
The
this is embarrassing.
Owner,
who pays how do content creators get their money?
Because the individual pays the individual pays into a system that pays you. That's how it works. Currently,
right now, how do I am a full-time content creator. Where does my money come from?
Well, you get money when people on this chat send you money.
When they watch, I get money if people watch and like my stuff. I get money if people enjoy the content I put out. If people don't like my content and they don't watch it, then I wouldn't be able to make a living as a content creator and I'd have to do something else, correct?
Right.
Now, if somebody under communism wants to be a content creator and they put out content that the community likes, we'll say you keep doing that because we really like it and you'll continue to receive your basic needs, just like under fucking capitalism. This is a one-to-one analogy. There are no flaws in this analogy whatsoever. You just aren't tracking.
The difference is that in communism, the community is paying you. The whole community is paying you.
There's no paying. What are you talking about? There's no paying.
Who just so happens to like you.
There is no paying.
They pay you in resources. They give you resources. That's the same thing.
How do I get? Yes, and
it's a private entity. It's a private entity giving you resources because that
is the exact same.
So happens. Okay, so in that one-to-one analogy, let's say I make a widget. Right, I make a widget and I keep producing this widget. In your communist society, to this one-on-one analogy, you would be okay with me selling that widget that I create for a profit. That's what you're saying. That's literally the one-to-one analogy.
Did you not listen to the conversation that I had right before you joined in, where we went over all of this?
Right.
If you are making something that is solely for your personal use, and you're only using it for your personal use, great, keep it. But if you make something,
I'm not using it for my personal use.
Then it's part of the means of. Then it's part of the means of production. You don't know what.
I'm using it to give value to my community.
Bro, can you tell me what communism is?
So it is when it's basically the opposite of capitalism, where you're getting rid of privatized means of production, whether it's goods, resources, and services.
Great. So when you just said, so if I privatize a means of production under communism, you see the flaw in the question? We wouldn't let you privatize a means of production under communism.
Because what I'm saying is, when you talk about comedians or when you talk about content creating, what is not private about that?
There's no. What are you talking? There's no means of production.
What are you talking about? How is the means of production not privatized?
What is the means of? I'm sorry. What's the means of production if I'm doing a comedy show? What is the means of production in this case?
Yourself. You're creating the jokes. That's the privatized. If I'm creating the gadget, that's privatized, right? Is it not?
Chat, am I in the fucking Twilight Zone right now?
What's the difference between you creating a joke? What's the difference between you creating a joke and me creating a gadget? What's the difference?
You don't know what the means of production are.
What is the difference between me creating a gadget and you creating a joke?
One is a product and the other is just my inherent labor.
No, that's your service. Okay, what is the difference between me creating a service and you creating a joke?
What's the difference between a service and a joke?
Correct. You as a comedian doing a joke, creating a valuable resource to the community, and me offering a private service to my community. What's the difference?
What's the difference between a service and a joke?
Yeah, tell me. How do comedians under capitalist society make their money? They create a service. They allow for enjoyable events for their people who support them, and they get money for that. This is pretty simple. It's a service, however you try to spin it. Comedians provide a service, so do bricklayers. So do pipe.
But again, if they're providing a service, here let's go through this one more time. If I'm a comedian and I provide a service, and that service is entertainment, and I go to a comedy club and no one shows up to my gig because they don't like my jokes, how do I earn a living?
You don't. Under capitalist society, you do not.
Thank you. That proves my
And
point.
under a communist society, your government pays you for providing a joke. Like your group that you live with pays you to do so.
You've proven my point here. Thank you.
But what I'm saying is you're still offering a private service. So comedians won't exist in a communist society because they cannot provide something that is not a private service.
What are you talking about? It's not private.
You still haven't. Okay, explain to me how a comedian is not a private service.
When it comes to privatized services, right? When it comes to these sort of things, the service is just the labor that a person puts into it. The reason why you can't privatize that labor is because it's your own labor. Your labor is not a privatized commodity unless somebody is paying you for that labor. The comedian is not being paid for this labor. They're providing the service to the society. And then if the society likes the service, the society will say, keep doing that service. You don't have to do anything else. This is what we like.
Okay.
If people don't like the service, then the comedian doesn't do that service anymore, just like they would now. It is literally happening the exact same way. And you keep going, well, see how different it is under communism? It's not different.
No. I'm getting ready now that you've explained it. Okay. Let's jump to this example. We're in a communist society. I am the only electrician in this community, and I can provide a service that no one else can. Now, how does that analogy one-to-one up?
We would just train somebody else to be an electrician, bro.
You know what I mean?
Training exists, my guy.
It's literally moving the goalpost.
It's not moving the goalpost. There would never be an instance where there are no instances where there's just one person who has the strict knowledge on one thing. We're not in a fucking apocalyptic scenario here. If you're an electrician, we can train other people to be electricians. You recognize this, right?
Yeah,
you recognize training exists.
You can also train another person to be a comedian, but that doesn't mean that everyone's gonna be an electrician or a comedian.
We don't need everybody to be.
I'm getting
capitalists are fucking crazy, bro.
No, what I'm getting at is that there will be people who are good at certain things and bad at certain things. And what you're good at in a capitalist society, you exploit and you make money from that. So if you're good at pipe fitting, if you're good at pipe fitting, you create a pipe laying business. If you're good at being
what do I need to make a business?
You create a
what do I need to make a business under capitalism? What do I need to make what do I need to make a business under capitalism? What do I need?
What do you need to make a business?
Yep.
You just need an idea.
No.
You might not even need capital.
No.
You might not even need money to do it.
Yes, you do. Yes, there are no businesses that you're starting without capital. How do you register your LLC? How do you register your LLC? It costs money to do this. How are you doing that? How do you get a business license? It costs money to get a business license. How do you do this?
So for instance, what you're bringing up here is
businesses and how businesses operate.
A bureaucratic structure that's preventing people.
This is business.
This is what conservatives are actually against. So you're small government essentially.
How do I communism is no government, dummy. I'm a communist, so I don't want any government.
So then as a conservative, you're probably more in alignment with what I'm saying. I don't agree with having to pay fees to start a business. What I'm saying is, in order to offer a service, let's say you're a counselor and you can talk to people and provide a good.
How do you pay your taxes at the end of the year? How do you pay your taxes at the end of the year?
Dude, we understand how our society works. America is not 100% capitalist society. That's
America's
number one.
Capitalist, yes, it is.
It's not 100%. Is it 100% capitalist society? It is not.
What is capitalism? Capitalism is just the ability to privately own the means of production.
Okay, so how do you explain the social programs that
social programs have nothing to do with capitalism or communism?
Okay, so we're
all
not
capitalism is the ability to privately own the means of production, which we have in the U.S. That's all capitalism is.
So
we have privatized ownership of the means of production.
Explain
and if you want to go even further,
explain FEMA, explain all of the resources that are distributed from what
are you talking about?
The financial
FEMA?
aid.
What the fuck are you? What are you talking about? None of this has to do with the fact. None of this has to do with the fact. Bro, shut up, bro. None of this has to do with. No, you're listing off nonsense. None of this has to do with. Do we have the ability in the United States to privately own the means of production? Yes or no?
Yes, but
then we're capitalists. That's all capitalism is. That is what 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 capitalism is.
I'm sorry you don't understand.
That is. I'm sorry you don't know what capitalism is while you're here trying to argue for it. That is what capitalism is.
Why do we pay in taxes into these
taxes
social programs?
Taxes have nothing to do with whether we're capitalist or not.
Why do we pay taxes into these social programs?
Taxes have nothing to do with whether we're capitalist or not. Taxes have nothing to do with whether we're capitalist or not.
Okay, explain to why do we receive free resources in America?
Receiving free resources have nothing to do with whether we're capitalist or not.
So this is why you don't really understand.
Define capitalism. Define capitalism right now.
The privatized ownership of a resource or a good.
No. The privatized ownership over the means of production, specifically. And do we have this? Do we have this? And do we have this in America? Yes or no?
We do, obviously.
Then great, America's capitalist. So shut the fuck up. Like, that's so fucking stupid, bro. Get out of here. It's so stupid, bro. How are you gonna fucking argue with me when you're answering yes to all my questions? Get the fuck out of here, dog. That shit is so annoying, bro. What? This literally, do you know what this is? Do you know what this was? Wait, I'll show you exactly what this conversation just was. Hold on. This is what this conversation just was.
Okay, Man Ray, are you ready for your first day at goodness school? Pat, get your wallet out. Okay, goodness lesson number 1. You see someone drop their wallet. Patrick dropped the wallet. Now, what would you do?
Excuse me, sir, but I do believe you've dropped your wallet.
Doesn't look familiar to me.
What? I just saw you drop it. Here.
Nope, it's not mine.
Excuse me, sir. I think capitalism is when the means of production are privately owned. I would agree. Then you would agree that America is capitalist. It's not America. America's not capitalist. Come on, bro.
Thank you, Boo.
It is yours. I am trying to be a good person and return it to you.
Return what to who?
Aren't you Patrick Star?
Don't you have privatized means of production?
Yep.
And this is your ID.
Yep.
And capitalism is when the means of production is privatized.
I found this ID in this wallet. And
I found the privatized means of production on American soil.
And if that's the case, this must
And
be
if that's the case, then America must be capitalist.
your wallet.
That makes sense to me.
Then take it.
It's not my wallet.
It's literally, bro. It is the meme, bro. It's literally the meme. Let's open up the call-in line, and then we'll get back to the TikTok guests. Before we take a call, just a reminder, guys, if you want to support the stream, especially for me having to do with Patrick Star, Cash App and Venmo are in bio. Feel free to tip the stream. We're 1/3 of the way to our tip goal today, so feel free. Also, remember, you can find in my link tree the toy drive, so please go and support the toy drive. We're trying to get toys for underprivileged children. So if you go and purchase a toy from the toy drive, just let us know. You can then send a message in our Ask a Mod spot in our Discord. Let us know what you purchased. And then I'm going to disseminate all those toys over the holidays to families in need. Anyway, let's open up the call-in line, bring in the next person. Hello, we're here to debate.
Hi, yeah, I'm here to debate.
You got to turn off the stream if you're watching the stream.
I'm sorry, hold on. Hi, yeah. Okay, now I can hear you.
All right. Can I just get your name, age, and pronouns, please?
All right, so my name is Angie. I am 33 years old, and do I really need to give my pronouns?
Yeah.
Yeah? What do I sound like?
Yeah. I don't know.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, I am a female, totally.
Great. So what are your pronouns?
She and her.
Great. Was that so hard? Like, Jesus Christ. What are you here to debate about?
Whew. So I was rolling through and I was looking at your stream, which is rather tantalizing. There's a number of things I would like to debate about. Well, since you're pretty much over communism and capitalism, let's do trans men are men and women.
True.
Let's debate that.
They are.
Monda's forehead
like,
donated $1.
biologically, yeah, they are.
Socialism is when
As
Jovan
human
has a
beings, yes.
TikTok that we all lovingly support.
Calling somebody biologically something just means that they're alive. Biological just means you're a living being, like you're a living organism. So, like, they would be
biologically means what you are, like, from, for lack of better terms, from Jump Street,
No,
like
the
from
word-
being born.
The word
So biologically, you know, from a woman into the world, being born, to transition from a man to a woman, you would have to, like, cosmetically arrange all of that from one point to the next. Is this correct?
Woman would not be a biological term. Woman is a sociological term that just refers to different social groups that we categorize people
I mean,
into.
I am a woman. I was born a woman. Like,
No,
you know, a social group.
Nobody's
could
hold
be,
on. Nobody
somebody
living.
Like a soccer
Just really
club
quickly,
or,
really quickly. Nobody
like,
living. Nobody living. Nobody dead. Nobody in the future will be born a woman. 0 people.
I am born a woman. I'm a natural born woman.
No, you were born a girl. You were born a baby. You have like a baby girl. You weren't born a woman.
I'm like, yeah, I'm at the early stages of my humanhood, of
What's the definition
I
of
guess,
woman?
like, me being a human, my natural state, I was born as female.
What's the definition of woman?
First stage being girl, next thing being adolescent, and final stage being woman.
Yes, what's the definition of woman?
So I'm biologically born as a woman.
What would the definition of woman be?
I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
What is the definition of woman?
The definition of a woman is someone who has titties and a vagina.
Okay, so if I have somebody who's born without titties or a vagina, what are they?
A man.
Really?
Are you not a man?
If I have somebody with XX chromosomes, but they're born with vaginal agenesis, so they don't have a vagina or a reproductive system, what would I call them?
That's that intersexuality thing that I'm not quite sure about.
What would their gender be?
Because in order to be, like, you know, say for instance, someone was born with a kerfluffle down there of a vagina and a penis, they would have to do one or the other with which is more dominant, if you would. Usually, the case is they would go with the more dominant trait, either if they're a man or a woman, and they kind of go about their way like that.
All right. So really quickly, because hold on, really quickly, because I feel like there's some things lost in the weeds here. In order to say that trans women cannot be women, it would mean there would have to be something necessary to fit into this category. There's something that you must have in order to be a woman, and trans women would not have this. What would that necessary condition be? What is the thing that is necessary for you to be considered a woman?
Yeah, sure. I'm sorry for cutting you off. I didn't mean that. I mean no harm or disrespect.
Okay, what is the trait that is necessary to be considered a woman? What's the trait?
Okay. Before I answer this, let's get down to the definition of trans. It means transition.
No, it does
that
not.
means from one point to the next.
No, it does
In
not.
order for there to be a trans woman, you have to be a man first, going from man to woman.
It does not mean, ma'am, it does not mean transition. Literally does not. I don't know where you're pulling that from. Trans, when we say trans woman, trans is just the shortening version of transgender. Transgender just means gender that's on the opposite side of your sex.
I'm sorry, because to transition from
doesn't mean
one point to the next, the motion from one
doesn't
station to
mean
the next
transition.
is to transition from point A to point B.
Trans is a Latin prefix that just means on the opposite side of. So when we put trans in front of gender, it just means a gender that's on the opposite side of your sex. No transitioning is required.
Okay, so let's walk through your definition. It's the opposite side of sex. If you're a trans woman, that means you were once man.
No, it means your gender identity is on the opposite side of your sex, which would be male.
Okay. To transition from man.
We're not. It's not about transitioning. Trans people don't need to transition to be trans. Because trans does not mean transition. Transition is a different word than transgender. They're two different words. You can have transgender people that transition, but trans does not mean transition.
Is not trans.
What? What? Oh my good God, bro. Okay. All this is just avoiding my fucking question, which is what is the necessary trait that someone must have in order to be a woman? What is that necessary trait?
A vagina and titties and to have a period.
Great. So if somebody does not have a vagina, but they have everything else, what would they be?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? You kind of cut out there.
If someone does not have a vagina, but they have everything else, what would they be?
A dude, a male, a man.
So if they have XX chromosomes, if they have breasts, if they have reproductive organs, but they don't have a vagina, they're a man.
Wait, I'm confused here. Could you probably use a different example? Because this example really does confuse me, and I'm trying to understand what you're
This is your necessary condition. When we say that there are categories that people can fit into, and we're saying that people cannot be in those categories, what this means is that there is a necessary condition required to be in that category. Necessary conditions mean that there can be no exceptions to this. You have to have this thing, or you cannot be a part of this group. You said vagina is one of these necessary conditions. So if I have somebody who's born with breast tissue, who's born with all of the sexual components of female, except they do not have a vagina because they may have vaginal agenesis or a plethora of other conditions that affect this. So they do not have a vagina. Your claim is that they would not be women because they do not have that necessary component, even if they had every other thing.
No.
Okay, then your logic is flawed.
It was a bit tethered there because I wasn't understanding where you were coming from.
Okay, then.
If you were born, BORN, born from a woman into this realm, into this world, into this existence, with all the necessary components of a female, but did not have or lack thereof, genetically speaking, or just by DNA, they'd still be female.
Okay, so then let me ask you the question again. What is the necessary condition required for someone to be a woman?
A vagina.
So what do we call people who have everything
to be able to menstruate?
Great. So I'll ask the question again. Somebody is born with XX chromosomes. They're born with titties. They're born with uterus.
I need clarification here. XX chromosome is male or female here in this conversation?
How do people have this fucking conversation?
Just to get clarification here. I'm so sorry. It might be stupid. I just wanted to get on the same page.
XX chromosomes would be female chromosomes. Female typic chromosomes.
Say it again one more time.
XX chromosomes would be female presenting chromosomes.
Okay, and XY is male. Okay, thank you.
XY would be male presenting chromosomes, typically. So again, if someone's born with XX chromosomes, they have a uterus, they have all of these things, but they do not have a vagina, so they're missing your necessary condition, what would this person be? Are they a woman?
Yeah. So they're still female because of DNA.
Great. So then
Counts go back
vaginas.
to the
So great.
brain
Hold on.
genetic system.
Hold on. Great. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, I
Vaginas
hold.
are not a necessary condition because you can fit into the category without them, meaning they are not necessary to be in the category. So now we can remove vaginas. What were the other ones?
Okay. This necessary condition, I see what you're saying. Although this is true, the other conditions that this person has, like, as you would say, fleshy booby tissues, genetically XX chromosomes, because if this person were to die or transition to be a trans man and actually go about their life, actually living their lives as a man, they'd still be biologically and genetically female because of how they came into existence.
I don't care about whether they're
born.
female. I could care less about whether they're female, right? The conversation is, are they a man or a woman? Now, again, you said that the necessary condition was vaginas. Vaginas are not a necessary condition. There can only ever be one you can't have multiple necessary conditions. You can only have one. That's the whole point about something being necessary. If it goes away and you're still a part, no. If it goes away and you are still a part of that category, then this thing was never necessary to be in the category in the first place. So what is the thing that is necessary for you to have to fit in the category woman?
Oh, XX chromosomes.
Beautiful.
That's the necessary thing. If this person was born without a vagina, that's regardless of the fact, because they're born with XX chromosomes, which would naturally make them female.
Great. What would I call someone that has XO chromosomes?
What the flip-flop is XO? I know what XO is. What is XO? That is new to me.
XO chromosomes would be a type of chromosome pairing that you can have in any instance. You can have XO chromosomes. You can have XXX chromosomes. So if XX chromosomes are a woman, what would I call someone with triple X chromosomes? What are they? Are they a woman still? They don't have XX. What about XXY?
I've never heard or ever come across any in my life of someone having triple genetic chromosomes.
Yep, XXY chromosomes is Klinefelter syndrome. I think XXX, is that Swire, if I'm remembering correctly? This is my issue, right? When we come here and we spout that there's this biological need to be a woman. Hold on, let me finish. Let me finish.
I've never heard of this. Now, mind you, it's still true. Not true. It's still a part of the conversation, I would believe, because I would have to go back and actually educate myself, like one person would as a scholar. As far as the human race and time goes, there's only been, I suppose, 4 types of chromosomes, and that's XX and XY. XY being man, XX being woman. So XX.
Here, let me ask you. Let me ask you a. We can get even deeper. We can get even deeper into biology here. Why is the Y chromosome the thing that we consider to make you a male? Why is it the Y chromosome? There's specific something that usually attaches itself to the Y chromosome. This would be the SRY gene. The SRY gene, when it attaches to the Y chromosome, typically expresses male sexual phenotypes. The SRY gene can attach itself to the X chromosome, not just the Y chromosome. You can have somebody that has triple X chromosomes, and that SRY gene has jumped over to the first X chromosome. This is also a thing that exists. So now where are we? What are these people? This is why you can't try to lock rigid gender categories to sex when human sexual development is fucking so varied. It is not a strict biological line that has never existed inside any mammal. They are it is so vastly different.
Is your research based? Can you pull up a referencing perhaps about the XXY, XXO, XXX?
What? Yes.
Yeah, a referencing, because again, this is I would need to physically or see this. Can you give me a website?
You can go to PubMed. You can specifically look up SRY gene transferred to the long arm of the X chromosome in a Y positive XX true hermaphrodite, and this is a case study of the SRY gene expressing itself on somebody with 2 X chromosomes. So this person had male phenotypic expression because the SRY gene attached itself to the long arm of their X chromosome instead of attaching itself to a Y chromosome.
Okay. So in this genetic phenomenon, we still have a basis for male and female because it's either or.
Okay. So again, that would mean that what makes you male and female is not just XX or XY chromosomes, right? Because your claim is it's the XY chromosome that makes you male, but the only reason that you would consider this is because of the SRY gene. But the SRY gene can jump to the X chromosome, right? All of this shows that there is no necessary condition that fits into the gender category woman that is tied to biology, because there will always be somebody outside of that necessary condition that if you met them, you would consider them a woman or a man. So they would fit into that category. So without a necessary condition, you can't bar people from a category. You can't say that's like saying you can't come into my club. Why not? There's no reason. You don't meet you meet all of the qualifications to get in my club. I just won't let you in. Like, it's nonsense.
Well, if the club, if we're talking about is genetically speaking of XXX, then no, people would probably with XX or XXS who would not probably get to an XYX club. It's because this is barred.
Why is it barred?
Because in order to be female or to consider yourself a woman, I mean, you would legitimately have to have these XX. And if XXX, XX, or XYX, it would be like a female that would have, like, I don't know, manly features. You would still be considered female.
Okay, I'm going to break this down for you on a neurological level, like how we view these things in neurobiology. How we view these things in neurobiology. There are two types of sex categories. There's genotypic sex and phenotypic sex. Genotypic sex is going to refer typically to your chromosomes, and we count chromosomes on a typical. We don't count them on an exact. So typically, in order to express male, you would have XY chromosomes, and then typly, in order to express, typically in order to express female, you would have XX chromosomes.
Why not exactly?
Because there are going to be variants, like I've gone over multiple times. XX and XY aren't the only when we started lumping people into XX and XY, we didn't know there were more. There have been over 20 chromosome variations now found in sex chromosomes. So now we know that there are more. So now we have to say typical.
Okay.
So typically XX for female, XY for male. Genotypic sex is viewed as an immutable trait. It is constant. We don't have any way right now, technologically speaking, to change your genotypic sex. It is what you're born with. Then you have phenotypic sex. Phenotypic sex just refers to your primary and secondary sex characteristics, how they present themselves in your body. So in males, it would be like testosterone, it would be male gonads, it would be small gametes. All of these things phenotypically express themselves male. Phenotypic sex is viewed as a modifiable trait. We can modify what your phenotypic sex is. We can modify this. Gender is a neurosocial concept that refers to specifically how your brain subconsciously identifies yourself. Gender is an innate sense of self. It's your subconscious, it's your subconscious perception of your sex and the way that sex is oriented in your body. It has a link. This would be your gender identity. Just like all identity, it's self-prescribed. So there might be a link. Okay. There's a link between gender identity and sex, and it's that your gender identity can align with your sex or it can disalign with your sex. Both of those things can happen. When it disaligns, you have somebody that is trans. They have a gender identity that disaligns with their sex. Now they can undergo transition to match the phenotypic expressions of their sex with their gender identity, or they don't have to. But they would still have the gender identity and have the gender, which would be man or woman, of whatever they identify as. This is how these things are laid out in neuroscience. This is how they're laid out in biology. This is how they're laid out in sociology. This is how they're laid out in psychology. This is how every relevant body identifies these things now.
So instead of trans, it should be identifying men and women are men and women. Because, again, that went back to my point from way earlier before when it came to transitioning. In order to be trans, you would have to transition from one point, from men to
no,
women.
Because they were never.
So,
This is the thing that you have. But wait, this is the thing that you have backwards. Trans people were never men. Like a trans woman was never a man. They were prescribed man on a societal.
If trans women were never a man, then why the identity to put on to be perceived as a woman?
That's not what happens. They were identified by society as a man, but their gender identity was always that of woman. Whether they had the words to express it or whether they were expressing it is two totally different things. But their gender identity was never that of man.
This is the fact of the point of origin here.
What?
The point of origin is that this person, whether male or female, at birth,
male and
whether male or female.
I feel like I went through this whole thing to explain to you that male and female are different from gender, and you're going right back to it.
My point being is the whole identity thing. In order to have an identity is to put it on. Kind of like, if you would, for the sake of conversation.
Identity is just an innate sense of self.
I know
you don't have to put it on. That's wrong. Identity is just an innate sense of self. You don't put on an identity. This is incorrect. You do not put on an identity.
Just humor me here. Just humor me for the sake of conversation here. This is a debate, right?
Bro, wait. At this point, it's not a debate. It's an educational seminar. Like, I need to be paid by colleges right now. Identity is an innate sense of self. You don't put it. Hold on. Let me explain this to you.
Let me educate you.
You are not educating me because you have not done the research on this. So you cannot stop. You cannot educate me because you have not done the research on this. You have not done the research. You cannot educate. Identity is an innate sense of self. It is not something you put on. I identify as black. How do I put on black?
Identity is an innate sense of self. It is not self. It is sense of self.
Bruh.
It's like sensing. You can sense who you are. You can find who you are. You can put on who you are. It's an identity.
Innate means it's not something you put on.
A secret story type thing. It's something to
innate means it's not something you put on. Innate means it's not something you put on. It's innate. It is innate to you.
Okay, if it was innate, then why don't people thoroughly transition today, as opposed to taking on the identity of a woman?
What the fuck are you talking
about? As opposed to
transitioning is just talking about your gender expression. It's just talking about how you express your gender. Not what your gender is, just how you're expressing that gender outwardly to the rest of society.
Okay,
like what?
Because then the debate topic wouldn't be transgender women are women. It would be transgender. It would be, excuse me, I'm sorry.
No,
the debate topic wouldn't be trans women.
It would be the exact same topic. The exact
women. It would be
not change.
Women identify.
Okay. Everybody say a W to Saoirse and a W to K-Space. I can't keep doing this. Like, I physically can't keep doing this. This shit is fucking batty, bro. Fucking A, bro. Give me 1 second, chat. I will be right back. All right, I'm back, chat. Sorry. That fucking last conversation, bro. That last conversation was fucking mind-numbing, dude. How often can I do this education? How often do I need to do the education, bro? How often? Like, they don't even know the stuff they're saying. Like, I'm just giving lectures at this point. All right, we're going to let somebody in from the TikTok. How long have I been going for? An hour? Okay, we'll keep going. Caitlin, thank you for the Cash App. Thank you, Caitlin. Thank you so much. Please only be in the guest request if you disagree, guys. It still says it right at the top, 1v1 debates. Please respect that. I understand that you guys might hear something, you're like, oh, I want to go in on that, but like, I'm trying to keep it $1.50 with you, trying to do my thing, you know? Pancakes or waffles? Depends on the mood I'm in, but mostly waffles. Which is a very different answer than I would have given like 20 years ago. Okay, let's bring in the next person. Hello, are you here to debate?
I am.
All right, what's your name, age, and pronouns?
Tyler, 28, and then he, him.
Okay, Tyler, what are you here to debate about?
The abolish police and prisons.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Boo.
So, the one problem that I have with abolishing both the police and the prison system is that what would we do with the criminals? Because the problem is, no matter what we do, there's always going to be some sort of criminal element, whether that be, you know, as lowly as people going in and stealing stuff from the store to as high as like corporate corruption. Like, there's always going to be a criminal element.
Yeah, what we would do is we would put them into long-term rehabilitation centers or long-term mental health centers, depending on their need and the needs of the society at that given time.
Okay. So what about violent?
Same answer.
Violent offenders.
Same answer, depending on their needs and the needs of the society. Long-term rehabilitation centers or long-term care centers.
Okay, so the problem that I have with that is, well, not really a problem with that, but it basically breaks down to, I've worked inside a prison for 4 years.
Okay.
And we offered rehabilitation program, and it wasn't just like, oh, you can go do this rehabilitation program and do whatever. It was very structured, where you have to do, if you came in there with any sort of drug or any sort of alcohol crime, like let's say you got multiple DUIs or multiple drug charges, you had to attend either NA or AA meetings.
Rehabilitation does not work if it's in a carceral setting, because the issue with how carceral settings affect the human psychology, it leads to further violence. This is why we see better when we see the way the Norwegian prison system is structured, and they've structured their prisons to be more akin to like a college campus. And you have like singular rooms. They have the ability to leave and exit their room. They have the ability to decorate the room however they want. They have the ability, a lot of people have the ability to leave on the weekends. This leads to better rehabilitation efforts. When we are confining in American prisons are historically overcrowded. We're confining 2 to 3 people to a room, plus people sleeping outside of the rooms on cots because the rooms are full, and they're eating shit food, and they're being treated like they're lesser than, and they're being treated like dogs. This leads to people engaging in more violence, not engaging in self-betterment. It leads to all of this. So we can't rehabilitate in the current carceral system. It just doesn't work, and it doesn't have. This is why we see our recidivism rate in America somewhere around 80%, while the Norwegian recidivism rate is around 20%.
Which is true, but the problem there is, no matter, like, working inside the prison, there are people that want to go in there and want to change their life. They do. But you meet some people that go into prison thinking that it's fun and game. And I don't mean that in the way like, oh, whatever, but there's a bunch of people that go in there thinking that I know what this is. I'm just going to go in here and do what I want to do, and it's not going to matter.
Yeah, but this is
And the
because of the
problem-
way. This is because of the this is because of the way we've structured our prison system in America. We've structured it this way, so people are going into it with this mindset. None of this discounts the fact that it doesn't work.
Yeah. So the problem with that is the people that go in there and go, okay, I'm going to go to this rehabilitation, whatever, the new structure that we built, the rehabilitation, and they say they don't care what they have to do with the rehabilitation. They're not going to do it.
Then
How would you deal with that?
Well, then they wouldn't leave. First
So
and foremost, under a new system, the only people that are going into a long-term rehabilitation center or a long-term mental health center would be people who have committed direct acts of violence to another person. If someone like robs a grocery store, but they don't harm any people while doing so, I'm not putting them in these areas. I'm not doing that. That'd be a waste of resources and a waste of everybody's time. It would only be people who commit direct violence
every day and it not matter.
No, didn't say that. I said they wouldn't go to prison. Prison is not the only form of punishment. It's just the one that we use in America because we want cheap slave labor.
Okay, so let's say somebody goes around the road, like somebody walks into the Apple store and steals a bunch of phones off the thing, which does happen. It actually happens a ton in New York. It happens a ton in bigger cities where people go into Apple stores and do smash and grab. What are we doing with those people?
It would probably be under house arrest because all they did was commit a property crime.
Okay,
let me ask you a deeper question. Why do people commit theft? Why does someone rob iPhones from an Apple store?
Because they can go sell them on the street.
Why do they sell the apples, the products on the street? What are they after?
They're after money.
Great. So then why don't we fix the systemic issues in our society that causes wealth inequality, and then these people won't go rob it. Nobody's going to rob an iPhone store if they're getting money. Nobody's going to rob an Apple store if they have the money they need to survive. The reason we do this is because we use police and prison as a band-aid of crime. We don't address the systemic issues for crime. All we do is we put a band-aid over crime, which are police and prisons. This is why countries that historically countries that have lesser wealth distribution problems see less property crime.
So so when you're saying less wealth distribution problems, like Norway, that is the one good example. Places like China, they have prisons still.
Wow.
And their prisons are not set up in a good way.
What? Great. What the fuck does
even USSR, where it was supposed to be a communist society?
I'll just let you know, China in 2020 did a study where they found out that their crime was due to wealth inequality. They found that out. They found that this is why crimes in Japan are less. Like, this is why typical property crime is less in Japan, because there is less wealth inequality. This is why in the Scandinavian countries these crimes are less, because there's less wealth inequality. Property crime specifically is directly tied to poverty. Poverty plus proximity equals crime. So why don't we fix the poverty issue?
Well, the poverty issue is going to be harder to fix. It's going to be is a hard fix whenever you have people growing up and they do not want or they do not know how to get out of an area or get out of poverty.
Poverty is a systemic issue. Poverty is a systemic issue. It's not an individual issue. It's a problem with the systems that operate our country.
Which is, well, that's the one thing that we probably agree on is the United States needs to be better, or the communities need to be better with teaching people how to overcome poverty, which I'm not saying it's not a systemic issue, but whenever people don't even know how to manage their checkbook or manage their bank account and know what bills are going in and coming out, they can
Wait,
see the
wait,
number on
but
the
this
screen.
isn't the issue because there are people who don't have the money to manage those things because they don't have the money because they're poor. They don't have the money to they're not middle class. They're poor. They're under the poverty line. Like, right? Like,
I've grown up
again,
my entire life underneath the poverty line.
okay, great. This would be called survivorship bias. Okay.
No, it's not survivorship. Like, the problem is there are things that you can do to get yourself out of poverty. Like, you don't have to perpetually live in poverty. And I'm not saying that people are choosing to perpetually live in poverty, but they're not being shown the way to get out. If I'm shown the only way that I can get out of poverty is by doing what everybody else is doing to show off that they have money, then that's what I'm going to do. If I see that this person went and robbed this iPhone store and is selling the iPhone for $400 a piece, I know that I can go do that now and get $400 a pop for an iPhone. That's the problem.
Okay, so just really quickly.
You're not
Just really quickly. When we look at the ability to move, only 4% of children born in the bottom quintile of poverty are able to move out of there. 4%. If you're born in poverty, you typically tend to stay in poverty. The people that get out are the outliers. When you are born,
these people
what?
What I'm saying is, so in the prison that I worked at, it wasn't just, you know what I mean? This is what you do. They were taught trade. Like, it wasn't, you go work and do this. They were taught plumbing. They were taught welding. They had options to go learn different things. Cooking. We have a great system at the prison that I worked at where they were literally given culinary degrees. They're giving welding certificates, and they can go out after this and go weld. They were set up with jobs. There's
So
ways to do
again, none of these programs are expansive enough for everybody and are funded enough that they have the outcomes that we see when these programs are implemented in non-carceral states. So as long as we continue to have a carceral state, you will continue to see this. And the reason why we don't fund them as well as they should be, and the reason why we don't try to change this, is because the state makes money off of prison slave labor. So they do not want people to get better. They want a constant influx of people going into the prison system. It's why it's written into our Constitution that you can be a slave as long as you've committed a crime.
So, but I live in Missouri. What our offenders produce? They don't produce anything that you can buy. The only thing they produce that you can buy from them, from the state of Missouri, is they produce wood carvings. But that's through the wood carving thing where they teach you how to carve wood. And you make your own designs and you do your own thing. Now, do they get the money? No, which I think is a problem. But what I'm saying is there are states that allow that, and that needs to be changed where they shouldn't be allowed to be used as free labor.
The average pay in the United States for people who are incarcerated is 60 cents an hour. That is the average that people are making across the United States while being incarcerated. This does not take into account the multiple states that do not pay prisoners anything, such as Texas, and who force prisoners to produce labor under threat of loss of privileges and or solitary confinement. Prisoners, specifically in produce a lot of labor across the country, and they do not receive the things they need for this. Instead, we treat them as slave labor to generate profit, not only for privatized prison industry, but for the state, as well as for legislators who receive kickbacks from prison industrial complex industries, such as I don't remember the name of it, but such as like telecommunication prison businesses, nutrition prison businesses, all of these things.
Yeah.
This is a negative. And the reason why, again, they don't fund the programs is so they can keep this going.
Which I agree, and then this is what I'm saying is there needs to be more funding towards these programs, towards rehabilitation. There needs to be more of a view on prisons as a rehabilitation center, not as a prison. The problem is you are going to have prisoners who do not want to rehabilitate. And I've seen that firsthand where we've had prisoners. I know a guy who has his master's degree.
I've already addressed this, dog. I've already addressed the reason why people don't seek out rehabilitation in prisons. It doesn't work in carceral models. These people are treated like less than human. So they don't, the psychology of this makes it so that it's the same reason why if you treat students in schools like they're really bad students, they're going to become really bad students. If I tell a classroom of kids from kindergarten to 5th grade that they'll never amount to anything and they're all dumb and they're all, like, the likelihood of them graduating is slim. It's the same where if we put prisoners into cages and say you're dirt, you're animals, you don't deserve to be out with the rest of society, what's going to happen is they're going to believe this and they're not going to try to better themselves.
They're working in a prison system. That's not how it is at all. We don't, but like the telling them that they're dirt, they're less than humans. Like that's not.
Homie, your limited
resources inside the prison.
You need to recognize that your limited experience is limited. When we look at the overarching, when we look at like the over, what's the word I'm looking for? When we just look at I'll just say overarching again. When we look at the overarching system of carceral justice that we've set up in the United States, this is the norm. This is the norm. Talk to prisoners and they will tell you this is the norm. This is what they see. This is how they're treated. We can look at the civil rights violations that are committed in prisons across the globe. You want to tell me that prisoners aren't treated like garbage when Texas won't put fucking air conditioning in their prisons? But people aren't treated like animals, but people aren't treated like they're less than human? You want to tell me that this isn't happening when, again, they're only making 60 cents on the hour for all of their fucking labor and work that they're trying to do, when they get thrown into solitary confinement, which has been deemed fucking torture by the UN, when all of these, and you're going to tell me that they're not treated like they're less than? They are. They are. We do it constantly. And this is the issue. And so it is harder to rehabilitate people that are treated like this, because they're going to start to act the way you treat them. That's basic psychology.
Okay, but what?
You don't think it's dehumanizing that you have to sit on a toilet in front of like a room of 3 people?
System, right?
Sure, go ahead.
I mean, that is dehumanizing, but also there is a problem there where there has to, so if you commit a crime in the United States, there has to be an answer to that. The problem is whenever you say, all right, we're going to send you to the rehabilitation center, that's where they're going. They're not going to prison anymore. They get there and they decide, I don't want to listen to these people. I don't care what they have to say, and I'm going to start assaulting them.
Because this is the way we set the system up. Because this is the way we set the system up. It's going to take a while to change this. It's a bottom-up method. It's not a top-down method. It's going to take a while to change this. But it's not, again, Norway experienced things like this. They had a bunch of violence in their prison system. they had high recidivism rates. And what they did is they started treating people in prisons like people, and they saw all of this stuff go down. So, like, we have direct examples that this works. They saw the violence rates drop. They saw recidivism drop. All of this just by treating people like people. For example, why should we force people in American prisons to all wear the same jumpsuits? Why? All it is dehumanizes people. It removes their individuality. It's psychological too. Like, there's a psychological reason. The reason we put them in the jumpsuits, it's to dehumanize them. There's a psychological aspect to it. Let them wear what the fuck they want. Give them a dresser. Let them put whatever clothes they want on. This will start to make it so that they are going to act more humane when we allow people to be people. They don't tend to act like monsters.
The problem is there are monsters within society. Like, it's not just this is not a cure-all. It's not going to be.
No one's
the
claiming
same
it's
way
a cure-all.
with
I'm not claiming
abolishing
that it is.
the police.
I'm not claiming it's a cure-all. I'm claiming that it's a better system than what we currently have.
I feel as if we agree on the subject that the prison system is not the best that it possibly could be, and there needs to be changes. Now, I would like to talk about abolishing the police. What are we going to do whenever people are committing violent crime? Who answers those calls? Who makes those arrests for violent crimes?
The issue with
if we abolish the police.
The issue with police is that police currently exist as tools of violence utilized by the state to protect private property interest. I do not want this. I would like services that exist solely to protect and keep safe people. Police aren't that. Police are under no legal obligation to protect you. They tend to lead to more violent outcomes in situations that they're in. We don't want this. Now, if we have a service that's focused on the protection of people, and this service needs to protect you from violent stuff happening, this is fine. But I'm going to view this as not police because the goal is different. The goal of the police is to protect private property. The goal of this service would be to protect people. So it would be a people-first model. And if we are able to systemically address crime to the point that I believe we can, if we focus on wealth inequality, we won't have as much of a need for police to begin with, because the bulk of crimes that police go to are property crimes and crimes born of poverty.
But there are also violent crimes. Like,
I've addressed that already.
There's not just yes, property crime is a big thing. But you're saying that you want the police, but not in the way that they are now. I personally believe that defunding the police or abolishing the police is the wrong way to go about it.
Police don't lead to positive
They're
outcomes.
not going to be police. They're going to be
they'll be something completely different. They won't be police.
The People Protection Agency, whatever they're going to be.
You can call them whatever. If you want to keep calling them police, wait, just really quickly. If you want to keep calling them police because you have no other frame of reference, fine. I'll call them fliggity flu for all I care, right? It doesn't make them, again, I've laid out what the police are. The police are a tool of violence utilized by the state to protect private property. When we have a system that is not doing this, I'm not going to view this as police anymore. I'm going to view it as some completely different thing.
Why would we not put more training into the system we have?
We've been doing more training since the 70s. It hasn't worked. We've been doing more training. Doesn't work. There is no correlation to an increase in training, with an increase in training to an increase in positive police outcomes. There's no correlation to this. Training doesn't work. It never has. We've been trying training forever. The reason why training doesn't work is the goal of police isn't changing. So because the goal of the police isn't, you can do as much training as you want, but if the goal stays the same, the training doesn't matter.
The problem. So the goal of the police, I don't I understand they're protect private property, but they're also there to protect the people too.
No, they're not. They're under
Police don't
they're
just protect
under
private
they are
property
under no
and
legal
witness a
obligation to
man
protect you.
get
They're under none. This is Castle Rock Supreme Court case Castle Rock v. Gonzalez. The Supreme Court rules police are under no legal obligation to protect anybody. And in fact, again, we can look at situations with police. If we look at specifically school shootings, every school shooting since Columbine, we can look at every single one. Schools with a police presence lead to a higher mortality rate. More children die in the schools with police than the schools without police. More kids die. We can look at the constant ways police break civil rights and all this other stuff. We can look at the way police lie in order to just unalive America. Like this, if we do not change the purpose of the system, then just throwing training and money and all this other stuff to the system is not going to do anything because we're not addressing the purpose of the system.
I think that's where we're going to disagree the most. Is the purpose of the system, because I don't see them as. Now, I've had to personally call the police, and they were here to protect me. And I'm sure other people have had to do the same thing, where they had to come and protect me. Or not protect me, but protect them. Now, there are cases where bad police do bad things. I'm not defending bad police at all. Do I think the police, what happened to George Floyd, should have happened? No. But the problem there is you have police officers who get in a high-stress situation who should not be in high-stress situations. Same way as a correctional officer. You get correctional officers who should not be in those situations and should not have made it as a correctional officer to begin with.
Why is it that we have a system? Why is it that we have a system that allows this to happen?
We shouldn't. There should be a reform in the system in general. I don't think we should.
And how would we do this? By changing the purpose of the system. If the purpose of the system becomes protecting people, then you can't have a police officer who, for instance, unalives somebody or who breaks someone's civil liberties or breaks someone's constitutional rights, just go to another fucking police department in another state and start working there. Right? You can't have a police who beats up somebody in New York, gets fired, and so goes and gets hired in LA. Right? Because it's not about protecting people. Again, the Supreme Court said that the police have no duty to protect you. As a citizen, as an individual person, they have no duty to protect you because they're not worried about protecting you. They're worried about protecting private property interests.
Well, so the Supreme Court ruling was not that the police officers are obligated to protect individuals, but protect the public as a whole. That's the public duty doctrine. So they are under no constitution to protect an individual, which I don't think that's right, but unfortunately that's where we're at with the Supreme Court ruling. But they have to protect the public as a whole. And what I'm saying is there needs to be vast reforms in policing as a whole. We need more training in, we called it in the prison. There's basically where we're able to talk somebody down. And it is used in very few states, both for corrections and policing. And I believe that we need to focus more on putting police in stress scenarios in training versus them just taking online courses, them just taking that, because that was a problem at the prison. Is I would just get a video to watch to learn something, whereas there needs to be more in classroom, in person training. There needs to be more training to that where I am reacting to the situation, not just watching a video of how I should react to a possible situation. Because the problem is right now, a majority of your police trainings are done on the computer because you not have the funding to do them in a classroom with real life scenarios that people have encountered.
So I'm just, again, you haven't been able to counter the facts that more training does not lead to better outcomes. Different types of training have not led to better outcomes. We've been changing the way Americans train police like every 10 years. We've been doing this over and over again. It doesn't work. And you've not been able to counter with the fact that when we look at countries that have adopted the method that I'm talking about, that we see more positive outcomes in terms of violence, in terms of recidivism, all of this. But we have been talking for 30 minutes, so I do want to move on to the next person. So
All right.
thanks for coming up and chatting. I just want to fly. Put my arms around you, baby. Put my arms around you, baby. How much longer do we want to debate for, guys? Getting a little tuckered out, TBH. What should 30 minutes? I don't know. Y'all gonna support the stream? Cash App and Venmo are on screen. Support the stream if you want me to debate for 10 hours. You guys support the stream, bro. Let's open the call-in line. We'll take another call-in caller. It's been a while since we did a call-in from the YouTube, so let's open that up. See if anybody wants to chat. Hello, are you here to debate?
Hey, I am.
All right, what's your name, age, and pronouns?
Ray, 28, him, he, him.
All right, what are you here to debate about?
Why you think communism is better than capitalism?
Because communism doesn't allow for the exploitation of the working class, and it doesn't allow for the it specifically doesn't allow for the ownership of private property.
I gotcha. I'm just curious about the feasibility of communism. I think my contention with communism is that it's difficult to get everyone to work and be productive, given that, again, like I don't know if my knowledge aligns with yours, but regardless of whether or not someone works hard or they do the bare minimum, they get paid the same stipend or the compensation or whatever means, or like the compensation structure is pretty much equivalent.
No, so communism isn't worried about compensation in that way. You're given what you need. So like if your needs are different from another person's needs, then you would get those needs, right? So that's just going to be the difference here. It's not an incentive based on, communism doesn't incentivize you based on like the labor you put out. It incentivizes you based on your usefulness to the community as a whole, right? So you could work 20 fucking 100 hours, but if you're working 100 hours doing something that doesn't benefit the community, we're not really going to support that, right?
I see. So just as a hypothetical, if we're both cultivating, I don't know, vegetation, right? And I'm working my ass off in the heat, and I'm trying to cultivate as much as possible. Meanwhile, you're doing the bare minimum. Would we get paid, or would we receive the same sort of food, water, access to shelter? Like, would we receive the same benefits?
We would receive the same benefits in terms of we would both receive those things, but like it would be different. It would be based on our needs. So like if I need more than you, I'm going to get more than you. It's basic triage, right? We would just be kind of doing basic triage for everything instead of just healthcare, right? To counter your example with an example, if you go to the hospital and I go to the hospital and we're both in the ER, we both need medical care. But if I have a pipe lodged through my brain and you have like a splinter, which one of us is going to get that healthcare first? We just use basic triage for everything, right? We're going to focus on the needs of people. This doesn't mean that you can't get more, right? If you barter and trade with somebody, if somebody's got like extra potatoes and you're like, hey, can I get those extra potatoes? Or if you come to us and you're like, hey, I need extra potatoes. And we're like, oh, you need some extra potatoes. Here you go. Take them. We have the extra. But the thing you're missing is you're like, well, if I'm doing all this backbreaking labor, you won't have to, right? The issue when it comes to labor under a communist system is we want to get rid of menial labor, right? If we get rid of menial labor, we're going to have more able bodies able to engage in the necessary labor and thus have less man hours needed, or not less man hours, have each individual needing to provide less hours of labor than they would under a capitalist system. So you may only have to work in the field for like 2 days.
How do you discern menial labor to necessary labor?
Because the only labor we need is labor that's necessary for the community's survival, right? Like let's say I have a fucking desk job and that desk job is just like administrative shit for something we don't need anymore, right? Bye, that job's gone.
Yeah.
Let's say I work at a McDonald's and there's also a Burger King and a Wendy's and a Culver's and a Five Guys and a fucking Shake Shack and a Nathan's and however many. We don't need all of those jobs, right? That is just capitalism trying to earn a buck off of fake competition and fake the illusion of choice, right? At the end of the day, you're still just getting a burger. And half of those burgers taste the same. Burger King and fucking Hardee's taste identical. There's no difference in these fucking burgers, right? These are jobs we don't that are menial. But we can even look a step further. Even if we're saying like, oh, we want to keep some of these, there are still more able-bodied workers than there are jobs on the market. There have to be, right? The job market has to be inflated in this way in order to have this. So we can just put these people on those jobs, right? We just ask them, hey, work 2 days. Like if I asked you in all seriousness, if I said, hey, yo, work 2 5-hour days picking whatever fruit, and then you're good. You're good for the rest of the week. You don't got to do shit else. I would take that in a fucking heartbeat. If that's all I have to do, and I get all my shit, I get a house, I get water, I get food, I get fucking internet, I get healthcare, I get education. Why wouldn't I do that? That's a fucking no-brainer. Over what we do now?
But it's not feasible.
Why is it not? It's
feasible,
how humans,
and is it sustainable?
It's how humans lived.
How do you
for
only
millennia.
work 10 hours a day?
What do you mean? It's how humans lived up until colonization. It's how we all lived. That's how all indigenous tribes lived.
But and that's because
Many hands make
capitalism
light
it
work.
outpaces innovation.
No,
it
it
outpaces
actually
innovation,
doesn't.
research, and all that.
No,
compared to the communist regime.
No, because the country that had the most that innovated the quickest and innovated the most was the fucking Soviet Union. The Soviet Union experienced the fastest innovation of all time. We still use things today that were invented under the Soviet Union, right? It's
I'm not saying that they didn't innovate. I'm not saying they didn't innovate at all, right? Like obviously they did innovate, but they used, they compensated people who contributed more handsomely, right? There were bonus structures in Soviet Union.
Yeah,
people got better stipends, they got better recognition,
socialist.
They got better bonuses.
Yes, because the Soviet Union was socialist. But again, what you're missing is that the more hands we have to do labor, the less time it takes to do that labor. It's just how labor works. If I have 100 people,
and capitalism is trying to achieve that, right?
No, it's
when
not.
It isn't. Compute labor as a cost.
No, it is not.
Why would you want to hire 5 people when 3 people can do it?
Wait. Capitalism wants to hire the least amount of people to maximize profits. Capitalism isn't. This is a bad thing. This is bad. Because what it does is it exploits labor. and it leads to unsafe working conditions, and it also leads to just gross inefficiencies.
No, we're pushing the limit so that we're trying to contest how much we can do with a smaller quantity of people.
This
right?
is bad. This is a bad
Like
thing.
obviously it might be. I mean, you can argue that it's bad, but we're pushing, right? Like greed isn't inherently bad, right?
Yes, it is.
Like too much greed is also bad, right?
Greed is
No,
inherently
greed
bad,
isn't
yeah.
inherently bad. Greed
Yeah, it
is
is.
what promotes innovation and research,
No, it doesn't.
right? Like how do you?
No, what promotes
How do you
innovation?
suppress
No, what
greed in a
promotes
communist
no,
society?
what promotes innovation is laziness. Laziness promotes innovation. Somebody not wanting to do something is what leads them to invent something that makes doing that thing easier. Greed didn't invent washing machines. The fact that we hated that laundry took half a day and you had to walk your clothes to a stream outside of your house, that's why we invented washing machines.
You're right. Honestly, you're right. Okay, but greed is the one where one person thought, hey, there's a need to wash clothes automatically, right? So we have to identify demand, and laziness, people's laziness and not wanting to do the laundry is the demand. And someone wanted to fill that void and put up capital, spoke with banks, spoke with investors, raised capital enough to start that washing machine business.
No, because
right?
when we look at
laundry
greed
machine
under
business.
a capitalist system, what greed under a capitalist system does is it promotes. Do you know what patent holding companies are?
Thank you, Boo.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of them.
Okay, this is greed under capitalism.
Like I'm not saying capitalism is perfect.
Greed under capitalism
cracks.
is somebody's going to invent somebody's going to invent something that's better than what my product is, but because it will destroy my product, I'm going to buy that patent and never put it out to society. Greed under capitalism is, hey, we have a cure for this Okay, but then you understand this is capitalism this is the faults. This is the flaws. This wouldn't exist under communism.
I agree that there
wouldn't be the ability to sit
system.
on a
I
patent.
just think it's the lesser of all evils. I don't think communism is perfect either. There's a lot of flaws to communism.
I disagree. The only reason capitalism is able to thrive the way it does in the United States is because it absolutely destroys the global South. Destroys it. Foot on the neck of tons of countries in order for us to stay the way that we are. It's why the Congo is the way it is. It's why Sudan is the way it is. It's why Latin America is the way it is, because we have destroyed these countries in order to keep resources that we need to maintain our capitalist lifestyle.
Okay. Like again, like I agree that there are flaws to capitalism. Okay, but there's also flaws to communism, and
such as,
and I think incentivizing laziness. Like a lazy person who doesn't want to do anything.
Laziness. You haven't been able to actively show this.
Sorry, there seems to be delays. We're just talking over each other.
Yeah, I just said you haven't been able to accurately show that communism incentivizes laziness.
Okay, so like in a communist society, if you're lazy, if you don't do anything, you still get fed, right?
If you're lazy,
if you just want to loaf around, not do anything all day, you get fed.
No. This is why I wish people would if you want to debate communism, please do the reading. It's quite literally Marx and Engels wrote this. They said this from each according to their ability, to each according to their need. You must provide something to society in order to receive the benefits of said society. So whatever you have the ability to do, you need to do. Otherwise, we're not just gonna feed you while you sit on your ass all day. You're not helping the community out.
Okay, so I know the socialism definition, which is the workers who have the means of production, correct?
That's one definition, sure.
If the workers have the means of production, and like let's say you and I, we start a business or we start something, right? And we want to provide value to I guess business wouldn't exist in this communist regime. So you and I, we speak with whoever, we find access to capital, the government provides us with that, and we start a business. Will we share the proceeds, like any sort of profit that we make?
There's no profit.
Will we share?
There is no profit.
Where would that go to?
What do you mean?
Like if there's any sort of revenue that we collect by
There's no
selling of these
revenue.
products.
Where would the revenue come from? Where would the selling come from? We're not selling anything. You wouldn't be selling anything. The only businesses that remain in a socialist system are businesses that provide a benefit to the society. And it's not about profitizing, right? If you come up with this, if you come to us and we're in a socialist or communist system and you're like, hey guys, I created this super crazy new technique that makes all food delicious. Like it's this formula, you put a drop on any food and it tastes like heaven. And we go, oh shit, that's fucking sick, dog. And you're like, I want to, what do we do? What do I do with this? We're going to go, well, we're going to fund however much you need. That's fucking sick. You showed us that it works. You showed us you can do it. We'll fund it. And you go, oh, great. Then you're good to go. And you can produce as much of it you want. And because you're producing it, we're going to give you everything you need to produce this. We're going to give you everything that you need to get this off the ground. It's not about, and if the business is, if you're like, oh shit, guys, this costs a lot of money to do. Like, this is like, what do? We're like, we don't give a fuck if it costs a lot of money. It benefits the community. We'll fund whatever you need to. It's not going to be like right now in a capitalist system. If I go, hey guys,
Fist Zero Roboto donated $7.11. Why is it that the people that want to debate capitalism over communism never seem to understand either?
I
Blows
think
my mind every time.
Keep
on fighting the good fight, Mong.
Okay.
Sorry, somebody sent a text-to-speech donation, so I wanted to let it read.
Yeah, no problem.
It's not like under capitalism where if I go, hey guys, I think I can show you that I can invent this really cool product. I just need the funding, and we're like, well, it'll cost a lot of money, and what will we get back in return? And if I'm going to fund the purchase orders, how much equity can I get? And if I'm not getting the right equity, then I'm not going to fund your purchase order, which means your product isn't going to get off the ground. Like that's what, this is the issue.
It's harder to kickstart. I agree. But in a communist society, why would I start that idea, right? Like if I get that all of these resources are provided to me, and you and I, we invented this revolutionary technology that makes food taste better. Why would we get our, get out of our chairs and start that idea when you and I could also enjoy the same sort of lifestyle if we were just flipping burgers?
Because most people want to benefit the society they live in and want to make the lives of the people that live around them better. This is why people volunteer.
I'm saying it's harder to incentivize that
because
in a
people right now. No, it's not.
As opposed to a capitalist
but this isn't true, because when we look at indigenous tribes prior to capitalism, they would do this, right? If they found out the ability to make something that would work better. I mean, this is where we get irrigation from. They learned about irrigation, and it didn't matter that the guy that invented irrigation in indigenous tribes wasn't going to get more fish than the other guy. That didn't matter. He said, "Oh, this helps all of us, so we need to all do this." Right? But capitalism has come in and convinced people that the only reason you should do anything for anyone is to better yourself. This is a flaw, and this is not how humans have ever worked, because the only reason the only reason we exist is because we're societal creatures. We formed societal groups in which we did for the all, and that's how we evolved and survived. Not the other. You don't survive. Individualism doesn't lead you to survive. It leads you to fail.
It's just hard to digest, man. Like I think greed is something that is very difficult to suppress. I think we have an innate kind of personality to be better than others. I think that's innate, right? And given that you and I, even if we were to contribute disproportionately, if we're getting the same sort of stipend or same sort of meals or whatever it may be, right? If we get access to the same thing, I think that's going to disincentivize people. Like or not necessarily disincentivize. I don't think it really pushes the needle in incentivizing innovation, as opposed to a capitalistic structure where if you actually meet the needs of capitalism or society, they pay you handsomely.
No,
I think that's a much stronger profit driver or innovation driver.
But that's also not true. You can have somebody who completely has stuff that benefits society that will stay poor because it doesn't matter if your product benefits society. All that matters is does it benefit the pockets.
You cut off for a second. Can you repeat that?
I was saying that in capitalism, it doesn't matter if your product, your good, your service, whatever it is, it doesn't matter if it benefits society as a whole. It only matters if it benefits the people bankrolling you. This is why so much medical innovation doesn't exist right now. Like, do you know how many people have invented medical innovations that go nowhere? It's because the companies that look at them say, well, this doesn't seem profitable for us, so we're not going to do it. You came up with a cure for cancer, but it's not profitable. So why the hell would we fund it?
Okay, you're like touching up. It's good that you're doing it, and you're touching up all the inelastic products where you actually require that need to survive. Like, I appreciate you for touching up on it. I agree, capitalism in those scenarios are flawed. Okay, I think we should move towards more of a social mean, or there should be a better way to audit those practices. I agree, but I'm just talking in a more general sense. We can merge capitalism with socialism, right? There is a middle ground, and I think when it comes to innovation, when it comes to technology, when it comes to anything outside of the core needs, I think capitalism is a much better incentive structure or an economic system to incorporate than a communist society, communist system.
No, I disagree.
I don't know if you want to add.
You can even, again, patent holding companies disprove this talking point, because even if it's a product that is not necessary for you to live, if that product affects the bottom line of another company, they will buy your patent and sit on it because they do not want to lose money. This is why they sell us products that break, right? This is why they sell us products that have a 2 to 3 year lifespan instead of products that they can. Do you know, before LED bulbs, do you know that the first light bulb ever turned on is still on and has never gone out? Because this is the best, one of my favorite capitalism stories. The light bulb companies got together and said, we are not going to make good light bulbs because it is not profitable for us to do so. So they sold people light bulbs that didn't have a long shelf life. And it wasn't until the guy who invented LEDs came along where they went, well, now we're just fucked because LEDs are so cheap to make. We can't really do the same. We can't really do this practice anymore. But literally, they made it so that you could, light bulbs, when they were originally made, lasted fucking forever. But instead of selling those because they couldn't make as much money, they decided to sit on that and only sell light bulbs that people would have to replace, like every couple of weeks, right? This is the game. It's the same reason the toilet paper companies don't want people to buy bidets. Because even though bidets are more sanitary and they work better, if you buy bidets, you're not going to buy toilet paper anymore. Bro, capitalism, this is how capitalism operates. It doesn't matter if what you make is better. It doesn't matter if what you make will benefit people more. If it affects the bottom line, they don't care.
Okay. Just moving on to the next point. I just have a question in regards to how we move to, like, in your world, how should we move towards a more communist society?
There are only two ways, in my opinion.
Let's say you are the U.S. government, and what sort of policies or what would you do day one? Like, what's your 5-year or 10-year horizon or the timeline of how you would transition from a capitalist society to a communist?
There are only two ways that we're going to transition. There are only two ways. One would be a massive worker revolution. This might lead to violence. It might not lead to violence. I don't really care if it does lead to violence. I think we look at any major liberation in human history, violence is always a part of that. Or massive worker protest. So if we have a global worker protest, that might be a way too. There might be smaller pocket ways that I'm not sure about because I'm not like a transition expert, right? I can only tell you what the benefits of the ideologies are. But like, how would communism run for like the first 5 years? I don't know because it's not up to me. The whole point is that I'm a council communist. So my whole belief is that the people should be deciding how the society works, how it's structured, and all of this. So I don't know, but I don't think that matters whether I do or don't know, you know?
Okay, I see. And in this communist world, should you, would you limit books, right? Any sort of literature that promotes capitalism, would you be suppressing that?
No.
Would it be very regulated? Would there be government?
Well, there's no state government, so no.
There will be like a federal government.
No, there's no federal government under communism. No. People do not need to
would
be
just be run by the people.
Right. Yes. The people will govern themselves. People will govern themselves.
And if I steal, I don't know, one of the products from you, I don't know, or if I hurt you, what would happen?
What?
Would there be police? Would there be?
There might be, yeah.
Would there be firefighters?
Probably. Why wouldn't there be?
Okay, I'm just trying to envision that society, and to be honest, I don't know what it would look like.
The best way, in my opinion, to think of a communist society, this is in my humblest opinion, is to look at the way indigenous tribes tended to operate. Indigenous tribes, especially in Turtle Island, lived in a society which had no private property. They also didn't have police, right? But they still were able to keep their community safe if somebody was causing harm in the community. Now we do this and then add in all the technology we have, and we're good to go.
I see. All right. Well, was it Jovan?
Jovan,
I appreciate your time, and thanks for taking the call.
All right, no problem.
All right, appreciate it. Have a good night.
You too. Man, I love talking communism. Okay, that's 2 hours of debates in the books. Guess what, guys? I'm going to go play Grand Theft Auto because it's time for chaos. It's time for chaos. It's time for chaos. Thank you for watching the stream. If you were over on TikTok, if you want to continue watching the stream and hanging out with us, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing chaos over on GTA 5, where the chat fucks with my game and tries to stop me from beating the game. I'm going to be able to because the chat can't stop me. So if you want to control my GTA game, come on and do that and come have fun. If not, I will see you tomorrow morning for our morning live. There will be no evening live tomorrow, most likely, but I will be live tomorrow morning for our morning live. Well, I should be. I'll let you guys know in Discord in the morning how I'm feeling, but there will be no evening live tomorrow, okay? Thank you to everybody who tipped for the stream. Yo, big shout out to, who did I miss? To Beth Ann for the final tip of the evening. Thank you so much. That put us at 210. Thank you guys. We were so close to our tip goal, but like so thankful for all the tips. Thank you for the super chats over on YouTube. I definitely missed that. So my bad. My bad. I will see you guys possibly tomorrow. You guys have a great rest of your day. Real quick, somebody said, asked about bi-gender people who identify as both. I just think that would be its own gender identity. Separate of man and woman, you are bi-gender would be your own like gender identity. You identify as both, so it's its own thing. But people who are like strictly men are just men and strictly women are just women, you know? Thank you so much. Come over to Twitch if you want to engage in GTA. K-Space getting us to our $300 goal. Everybody say W, K-Space. Give a big baddie W. Remember to go hit my link tree. Follow me on all platforms. Go do the toy drive if you have not. And come hang out with us on Twitch. We're going to go play Grand Theft Auto. Goodbye.